Hello, can you introduce yourself to us, who you are and what is your role and position?
My name is Daglow, and I'm a game designer and game developer for many years. So I currently advise different independent and publisher teams on game development, and I'm also the president of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences Foundation, which offers scholarships and mentorships to students who are pursuing careers in games.
This is not probably your first time on Reboot, or is it? Is it first time?
No, this is my second Reboot. I was excited about coming back to Reboot because there is an absolute unique spirit in this conference. Yes, the indies, the excitement of the indies permeates everything here, and you have a lot of great international speakers. I go to sessions, I've done this for 50 years, and I go to sessions here and I learn things just attending as a conference participant.
Okay, what was your topic on the stage? You're one of the speakers, so what was your topic on the stage?
I was talking about 7 lessons from 50 years in games, and the idea I had was, all of us are thinking about what is the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years in games, what's that going to be like? And so I took people through a series of experiences I've had over 50 years of making games, so that you can look at 50 years of the past and think about what does that mean for the future, and some lessons I've learned out of that.
You're also one of 3 Emmy Award-winning game developers who also won the DICE Award. What does that mean to you?
I think a lot of it is I've gotten to work with great teams, because in modern games, everything we do in almost every case is about either a small team, a medium-sized, or a big team. And if you work with great people, frankly, one of the great ways to win awards is work with great people. And I've had the privilege of doing that. I think one thing that's important that I always talk about is every time we build a game, we're trying to build something great. If I get to accept an award for a team, it means that, now this time, we achieved our goal, we achieved something great, and in some way, we especially connected with our players. That's the goal. We want our game to be meaningful, have the players enjoy our game now, but also still have them remember our game 5, 10, 20 years from now. They still remember, they still love our game.
Yes, you told me, like before off screen, that you sneaked in the universities with your colleagues for making games in the 70s, and you came into the game industry in the 80s. What were the differences now and then? Like, how were game developers treated then, and what are the differences till now?
As a university student in the 1970s, none of us knew any of this was going to happen. So we would sneak around at night to find an open terminal where we'd be allowed to work on our games. When the industry started in the 1980s, we came from nowhere to being a big business very quickly. And suddenly video games were this big, hot thing. And every night we'd watch television, and TV commercials for our games would come on, and then TV commercials for other companies' games would come on. And each system would say, no, our system is the best, our system is the best. And so we went through a period when we were the big new thing, and video games were this surprising, weird development. Then after a few years, we settled down and video games became part of culture all around the world. But people still think it's funny that we're game designers. And especially for me, as someone who's older, they say, oh, I'm a video game designer. And people look at me like,
yeah, that's always going to be like that. People are always going to look at us a little bit funny.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, because you were so long in the industry, what were the 3 biggest breakthroughs in video game development or the video game industries?
Well, I think first of all, having video game consoles in the 1970s, where you had different cartridges you put in to have different games. With Pong, the first console, you had only Pong or little variations on the game. But an engineer named Jerry Lawson, who was an African-American engineer working in Silicon Valley, invented having game cartridges you could plug into a console called the System F. And that system turned out not to be a big success, but an idea of cartridges changed everything. That's what opened up the way we know consoles today, even now that we're using digital technology. I think the second thing that opened up was having the internet, because just online connection. I started working in online games in 1987 when everything was very slow connections. But already we were connecting not only with our players, but we were connecting players with each other. And just watching how those game communities grew was really exciting. And I think probably the third thing I would think of is when mobile phones, smartphones came along, not just because of mobile games, but because of touchscreen. Adding the touchscreen interface, because we've had keyboard interfaces for a long time, we had controller interfaces, but adding that touchscreen interface opened up so many new kinds of games and new kinds of game players. We brought over 1 billion new people in to the game playing community, in part because we have these new ways to play.
Yes, mobile game is a thing, and it's not stopping. It's just growing all the time. Tell me, are you still playing video games?
I still play. Very often I'm playing our clients' games or competitors' games. So I've been playing a lot of, trying a lot of different role-playing games recently because I've got a client who's working in that space. We've been working on narrative design for a role-playing game. And it's nice because I keep having a chance to play a variety of games. I'm working on a little indie game that we think we're going to be able to complete next year and playing competitors for that. So yeah, I still get to play, and I still get to play a variety of games instead of just one kind or one other.
So when you mentioned indie games, you're probably going to be on the Indie Awards, right?
I'm sorry?
Indie Awards, you're probably going to watch the indie developers now pitching, and are you excited for that?
I'm always excited about it. Here I'm not a judge, and sometimes I get to be judges in these things. And what I love about it is, first of all, in big companies, there are a lot of restrictions on how ideas can come out because games have to be big. Big companies need big games. When small is okay, you can be a lot more creative. And the combination of the creativity and the passion for games that indies have is exciting. I still feel passionate about doing this now most of my life. And that passion is infectious. We all get it from each other. We reinforce it with each other. And seeing the indies, it reminds you of why you love games and game making so much.
And for the end, can you please tell us some advice, maybe from a legend like yourself, some advice for the young and upcoming talent? What do they need to focus on or something?
I think there are two things that I talk to university students and new people starting out, whatever their background is, whether they're coming through the universities or not, is number one, if you have a passion for games, pursue it. There's no reason not to. And a lot of times we'll say, oh, I would love to do that, but they never let me do that. I never could. There'd be no way. Well, no, if you work at it, there probably is a way. So don't talk yourself out of it. And the second thing is look for a skill you can develop that is an important skill for teams making games. So if you picture a football team, they will have players. The players don't all do the same thing. You'll have goalie, you'll have strikers, you'll have midfielders, you'll have fullbacks. But think of yourself, what is a place where I could become a really great game-making athlete, could be a valuable part of a team? How could I develop those skills? What courses could I take? What could I study? What could I learn? What could I just practice by doing it? And as time goes on, that's the thing that's consistent. Teams are looking for great players to join them who have skills they need. If your football team doesn't have a good goalie, you are looking everywhere for a good goalie. Well, if that's true of a game team and there's a certain kind of person they need, a certain kind of artist, engineer, audio person, music person, whatever it might be, animator, if you are really good at that skill, you'll get to use other skills as well, but having one where you can make the national team, that's very valuable.
Thank you very much. You're a pure example of what they need to focus on and becoming a successful game developer. Thank you very much for this.
It's great fun. Thank you.
Thank you.